On Nationwide this evening, paintings with a difference, and an artist who did not let COVID restrictions stop him from working within his local area. Plus, in Kilkenny, we visit a new gallery which was opened in the city to house the Butler Gallery Collection, one of Ireland's most significant collections of 20th century Irish art, and which will provide space for local and visiting exhibitions. The plein air artist Gerard Byrne would, in pre-COVID times, have travelled to European cities and further to capture the architecture and botanic gardens of various places. Now, like the rest of us, he has been grounded. His neighbours in Ranelagh have benefited from him staying put, as he has been painting his locality since last March. Valerie Waters met with him.
Artist Gerard Byrne has his studio, gallery and home in Ranelagh on Dublin's south side. During this time of COVID-19, Gerard's locations for painting have been in compliance with the restrictions. So instead of his usual travels to far-flung places, he's now working in his own neighbourhood. Since March 2020, he has produced 42 paintings for an exhibition called Pause for Harmony, Art in Lockdown. Gerard Byrne is originally from Finglas and is a former electrician. Over the years, he has lived in various places in Dublin and in England. He's relatively new to Ranelagh.
Painting Ranelagh, it's changed things a bit in some ways for myself, because I feel like I'm very much part of it now, very connected with it, unexpectedly. You know, like I'm getting to know my neighbours, just talking to people. People seem to be very interested in art, very connected with it, and also they like the fact that I'm a local artist with the gallery here. As one woman said to me there recently, Ranelagh now owns you, which is a nice thing in some ways. Like I used to live in Dalkey, and Dalkey used to own me, and I kind of felt when I left Dalkey, I was leaving a family behind, and in many ways I have a new family here in Ranelagh. When I set up on the street and start painting, people are first curious to what I'm doing, and then they want to know who I am, and they'll ask the question. And some of them will know, they would have saw me probably on the social media or whatever else platforms of, oh, that's the artist, so they would like to engage with me, So a bit of engagement, and people would actually share stories with me about themselves and their houses and who lived in that house, who used to live in it, or the history of the house, and a huge amount of knowledge was coming my way about the place I was building that I never would have known about.
This house is owned by Kieran Doyle and John Gray. Their perfectly clipped hedge and climbing rose feature in two of Gerard Byrne's paintings.
Gerard Byrne painted two paintings of the house here during the lockdown. The first one was with a yellow and green door curtain, which we put up for Patrick's Day. It has little shamrocks on it. And a little while later, then we changed the door curtain to a pink and white one, the one that's presently on it. And we have a range of about 5 or 6 curtains that John makes, and we put them on different times, depending on what flowers are blooming at a given time. The pink door curtain was on when we have a particularly spectacular rose called Madame Grégoire Stachelin, and it's in one of the paintings, the one with the pink door curtain.
It's great to see the hedge and everything in the painting. It really gives the atmosphere of the garden, and these old houses and that, the curtains on the window and all of that, and the bench out the front. It really does capture the whole atmosphere.
Gerard's wife Agatha runs their gallery on Chelmsford Road in Ranelagh.
Looking good so far.
She also photographs Gerard at work for the gallery's website. Agatha, who's originally from Poland, is a landscape architect and garden designer. She's taking a break from that now in order to establish the Gerard Byrne Gallery in Ranelagh.
I take photographs when Jerry is painting outdoors, especially when we go abroad. So obviously then we spend a lot of time together, and I have that time to do it. And lockdown presented us with another opportunity that we could be together every day, and I was actually able to just be here and with my camera photograph Gerard at different locations, painting Ranelagh, painting local streets, and it was really wonderful.
The double-fronted house in this charcoal drawing is owned by Henrique Fallon.
I think it was April, May, and we were just inside and he just showed up and started painting. So we came outside with the kids, you know, we didn't have much to do, we were inside the house anyway, and just watched him paint, and it turned out to be an absolute amazing painting. We debated then whether to purchase or not, and we thought in the end, you know, it's lovely as a nice memory for this particular time. My kids are very young at the moment, so they probably necessarily won't remember this time, but it's a nice memory for them to take back to that they can inherit some time.
People seem to be very engaged with Jerry's work and seeing him painting on the street. I think it's partly because this is not what you see too often these days. Being so brave as well to do it outdoors and in front of the real audience.
For us, it was a really different thing to see somebody painting something in our neighbourhood that we take for granted, but it's only when you see an artist, a supreme artist, put a vision or a view on canvas that you realise just how special that the simple things in your neighbourhood are, and particularly at this time of lockdown.
Pat's wife, Rita, is particularly fond of the irises in their garden. They feature in this Gerard Byrne painting.
Well, Gerard did an amazing job with it because that particular painting shows a lot of the foliage. The iris were in bloom, they were in full bloom. Those iris, when we arrived here 30 years ago, they were in the garden. There was only a small clump of them, but they had been planted by our next door neighbour, and Mrs. Little was her name, and she was in her late 70s stroke 80s at the time, and she just loved them, and we just put them down, and they were a small clump. But then as they got bigger, I said, well, we'll just put them along in a stream right along. So when the painting was being done, the angle of them made them look very spectacular.
The owners of these houses in Ranelagh had something other than the pandemic to talk about to each other during the first lockdown, when Gerard appeared with his easel.
We have a little WhatsApp group going so that everybody would be updating each other, saying, oh, he's doing your house now, he's doing your house now. So it was great to see somebody working while I was working, and it was very exciting watching the whole thing progress from sketches to painting. But what I was particularly impressed with, well, I would have liked to include my head working in the window for work, but what was particularly impressive was that he included a glazing bar in the vertical, the top window. If you know, there isn't actually a glazing bar there, and there should be, and he actually put it in. So I was very impressed with that. So his eye for detail is incredible, and he kind of made the house look a bit better than it was.
The architecture on Park Drive in Ranelagh makes good subject matter for Gerard Byrne. Pat Garvey lives there.
The houses that were in Park Drive, which are the turreted houses, were part of a competition, I think in the early 1900s, that was held in the RDS, and they won an architectural prize at that stage. And so there's a lot of history in the houses, and I think that's probably what attracted Gerard to painting them as well. We bought paintings of the botanic gardens of beauties and of still life, and he's really very talented.
Even though Gerard Byrne has been a full-time artist now for over 30 years, he came to that profession later than most other artists.
In the past, like most men that grow up in Finglas, wherever else, my parents wouldn't have a lot of money to send me through art college. So I had to get a real job, although my passion was with art. I really wanted to be an artist. If somebody had asked me what you want to do when you grow up, it was like, I want to be an artist, but it wasn't going to happen. As much as my parents tried to get me into art college, I was too young to start, and then I was too old, and then I couldn't afford it. Anyway, I never went. So I had to get a real job. and the real job was electrician. And I loved being an electrician. I couldn't pick a better trade. It was, full of adventure and interest and, challenging in many ways, and I loved it. And I never painted when I was an electrician, which is strange enough. Even though I worked at the lighthouse service as a maintenance electrician, you think you'd have the time to paint and you'd want to paint, but it was like didn't come into my psychic or whatever else at the time. So in many ways, probably missed out on a few nice lighthouse scenes, but that's the way life is. So getting the chance to kind of live your dream, in a sense, to become an artist was a big thing. For me, it was like a dream come true. I never went into it with the idea of making a living or making money. I actually just went into it because I really wanted to be an artist. And to my surprise, that people bought my work, so it all worked for me in a sense. Like, I've had about 30 solo shows to date, and more on the way, please God.
Here in Ranelagh, Gerard Byrne has a large following. On our day of filming, neighbours were only too delighted to tell us how much they love to see him out and about with his easel and brushes.
I think that we benefited from the lockdown. Gerard, I believe, was supposed to be doing a set of paintings in Berlin for an exhibition in September. And because of the lockdown, he came to explore the neighbourhood around his own studio. I loved watching Gerard do his paintings. They were great perspective on the area, and he recorded it. And he was very lucky. The light was very good, as we all remember during the first lockdown. It was a real sunny period, and people were exploring their own neighbourhood.
Anyone who has bought a painting of their own house regards it as a positive and optimistic move, despite the worries about the coronavirus.
We have a couple of boys. We were trying to maintain positivity through all of this, and it was really great. Like, even there was a bit of a buzz around out here and the other places around Ranelagh where he was painting. You could see families walking past and chatting to him, and it was sort of exciting during a time when there was nothing else much going on.
Gerard Byrne is right at home amidst the red bricks of Ranelagh. The energy here suits him down to the ground.
As soon as the weather improves, I'm itching to get out. You can't hold me back. It's like something I must do and have to do. And I love doing what I do. So I have this theory that, you could go out and take a photograph and bring it back and put it up in front of you on the easel and work from home, safe and sound and in the warmth of your home. But I believe there's a magic involved in painting outdoors. You collective energy. It's everything that in the picture, the people passing by, the sounds, the canvas vibrates, and then the people you're talking to, and everything that's there, including me, is going into that canvas. It's just a collective energy. So for me, it's important to be outdoors and painting.
A 360-degree virtual tour of the gallery is now on the website gerardbyrneartist.com.